Can't even get hired, my mother announced, lifting her champagne glass as 50 attorneys laughed around me. Then her secretary burst through the doors, pale and breathless. The global merger is complete. I set down my water, stood, and looked straight at the woman who had spent years calling me a failure. Thank you. As your new CEO, you're all fired. The room went silent. Mom's smile cracked. She said I had no authority, no company, no future. So I placed the vote on the table. What she didn't know was that the merger wasn't my revenge, it was proof of what she had done. Before I dive into the story, hit like and drop a comment telling me where you're listening from. Let me know if you've ever been in this kind of situation. Your advice reminds me I'm not alone. 2 years earlier, my father called me at 11:47 on a rainy Tuesday night. I remember the time because I was still wearing the silver watch he gave me when I graduated from Harvard Law. The face was scratched near the fore, and the metal always felt colder when I was nervous. Sarah, Dad said, his voice low, the firm is in trouble. Morrison and Wells had been my mother's kingdom for almost 30 years. Sharon Morrison was the kind of woman who could silence a conference room by setting down her pen. She wore tailored suits, remembered every client's weakness, and treated family dinners like board meetings. My younger brother, Ethan, loved that world. He sat beside Mom at Thanksgiving, laughed at the right moments, and never questioned why his career moved faster than everyone else's. I was usually seated near the kitchen door. Dad told me the firm had lost a major client. Cash was tight. Bonuses were delayed. He said hundreds of employees could suffer if they did not find money quickly. What do you need? I asked. He exhaled like I had already agreed, nearly $1 million. It was most of my company's reserve fund. Global Legal Solutions was still small then, just 12 employees working above a bakery in Queens. We built software that reviewed contracts, tracked payments, and flagged costly mistakes before they reached a client. I had planned to use that money to hire engineers and open a second office. Instead, I wired it to my family's firm. Then I spent 4 months rebuilding their broken contract system. I worked past midnight, eating cold takeout beside humming servers, because Dad kept saying the same thing, you're saving people's jobs. Mom never thanked me directly. She called my work temporary technical support and promised the loan would be repaid once the firm recovered. I believed her because I wanted to. That was my oldest mistake. A year later, Morrison and Wells announced record profits. Mom appeared in a business magazine. Ethan was promoted and placed in charge of a new innovation initiative. I found out while standing in line for coffee. A glossy company newsletter was open on the counter. Ethan smiled beneath the headline, one hand resting on a computer screen displaying the platform I had designed. My phone rang. It was Dad. Your mother wants you at the partners' dinner, he said. Please don't make this about the money. I stared at Ethan's picture until the letters blurred, and in that moment, I understood why my payment had never been their priority. The system on the screen was mine. The name beneath it was my brother's. I called Dad before I reached my car. Why is Ethan's name on my system? Rain tapped against the parking garage roof. For several seconds, all I heard was his breathing. It's complicated, he said. No, it's printed on a company newsletter. He lowered his voice. Your mother thought the firm needed a familiar face. A familiar face, Sarah. Please, don't turn this into a family crisis. That sentence stayed with me all night. The next morning, I received another notice from Morrison and Wells. My loan payment had been postponed for 6 more months. No apology, no explanation, just a polite paragraph about temporary cash management. An hour later, a thick cream envelope arrived at my office. The annual partners' dinner, gold lettering, expensive paper, a private room at one of Manhattan's most exclusive restaurants. I held the invitation beside the payment notice and laughed once. It sounded sharp and strange in the quiet office. They could afford crystal glasses and imported flowers. They just could not afford to pay me. I went to see Mom that afternoon. Her office smelled like cedar, coffee, and the same expensive perfume she wore when I was a child. The air conditioner hummed above the framed magazine covers on her wall. She did not ask me to sit. I saw the newsletter. I said, Mom kept signing papers. Then you saw your brother's good news. He didn't build that platform. He represents it. That isn't the same thing. She finally looked up. Ethan understands this firm. Clients trust him, and they don't trust me. You chose startups over a serious legal career. I chose to save your serious legal career. Her pen stopped for 1 second. I saw fear behind her eyes. Then it disappeared. Family members don't keep score, she said. Only the ones who benefit from the score being hidden. Her face hardened. Be careful, Sarah. Ethan found me near the elevators. He waited until the doors closed before speaking. I know you built it, he said, then corrected the announcement. I can't. You mean you won't? His cheeks turned red. Mom says this promotion changes everything for me. It changed everything for me too. He stared at the floor. Just let this go until I make partner. I looked at my little brother and remembered helping him study for exams he had barely prepared for. Did you ever ask her to give me credit? He said nothing. 2 days later, Nathan Cole, the firm's chief financial officer, contacted my attorney. He did not send secret files. He requested a formal meeting with the audit committee present. The numbers were worse than Dad had admitted. Debt was rising. Vendor payments were being delayed. Partners had not received the full picture, and my loan had not been overlooked. Mom had ordered it pushed to the bottom. That was when I knew this was never an accounting mistake. It was a decision, and she had made it knowing I would stay silent. That night, I sat on my apartment floor with the loan agreement spread across the coffee table. The radiator clicked. Traffic hissed over pavement. 4 cardboard boxes sat against the wall, filled with contracts, payment records, meeting notes, and every promise my family had made when they needed me. I removed Dad's silver watch and turned it over in my palm. For years, I had treated it like proof that one person in my family believed in me. Now it felt like proof of how badly I wanted that to be true. I did not cry when I learned Mom had delayed my payment. I cried when I realized Dad had known. The next morning, I met Elena Park at a midtown diner. We had been friends since law school, and she had the kind of calm that made lying impossible. The place smelled like burnt coffee and buttered toast. A waitress dropped 2 menus on the table, but neither of us opened them. I want to expose everything, I said. Elena stirred cream into her coffee. Do you want justice, or do you want your mother to hurt? I watched people rushing beneath umbrellas. I don't know. That answer matters. I hated her for being right. So we started with the only thing that could survive anger: facts. The audit committee reviewed the firm's payments, bills, and internal approvals. An outside attorney examined my loan agreement and the licensing terms for my platform. No stolen files, no account access, no shortcuts. The findings came back slowly, then all at once. Mom had hidden the firm's debt from equity partners. The executive committee delayed legitimate payments while approving renovations and partner events. My software had been used beyond the original agreement. Ethan had been presented as its creator, though internal records showed otherwise. Elena placed the summary before me. You can sue, she said, or give them a way to survive. That was when revenge stopped feeling simple. If Morrison and Wells collapsed, Mom would lose her title, but assistants would lose rent money. Young associates would lose health insurance. Clients would be pulled into a family war they never asked for. I would not save my mother from the truth. I also would not punish innocent people for her choices. Global Legal Solutions proposed merging with the firm's technology and administrative division. The legal practice would remain under licensed partners, while an independent board controlled the new business group. Employee pay, client funds, and junior positions would be protected. In return, the executive committee would face review, my loan would enter a repayment plan, and ownership of my platform would be recognized. Enough equity partners agreed to call a vote. If it passed, I would become CEO of the merged services company before the dinner. I met Mom privately and offered one last chance to resign. Disclose the debt and correct Ethan's promotion. She smiled. You're trying to buy the career you couldn't earn? I walked out without answering. By the time she stepped onto her favorite stage, every vote was in. We were waiting for one final confirmation. The private dining room glowed with amber light and polished wood. Crystal glasses chimed as waiters moved between chairs carrying untouched plates. Mom stood beneath the firm's gold logo, one hand around a champagne flute. Another record year, she said. Applause rolled across the room. I sat near the far end of the table, where she always placed me. Dad sat beside her. Ethan sat on her other side, wearing my old blue tie. Mom praised the firm's growth and reputation. Then she rested a hand on Ethan's shoulder. And tonight, I'm proud to announce that Ethan will enter our equity partner track. The room applauded again. Ethan smiled, but his eyes found mine before dropping to his plate. Mom let the applause fade. Of course. Success takes discipline, she said. Not everyone understands that. The air changed. My daughter, Sarah, she continued, smiling as if sharing a harmless joke, has a Harvard degree and still can't even get hired. A few people laughed, not loudly. That made it worse. Margaret Wells leaned toward me. There are smaller firms that might be a better fit, she said. Dad cleared his throat. Sharon, maybe this isn't necessary. Mom barely looked at him. It's family. We should be honest. My fingers closed around Dad's silver watch. She knew about the loan. She knew about the platform. She knew her firm had used my work, delayed my payments, and handed Ethan the credit. Still, she lifted her glass. Some children understand sacrifice, she said. Others keep invoices. Something inside me went quiet, not broken, finished. The double doors opened hard enough to strike the wall. Janet, Mom's secretary, hurried in, her face pale. Ms. Morrison, she said, the global merger is complete. Mom's expression brightened. Excellent. We'll discuss it after dinner. Janet did not move. I placed my water glass on the table and stood. Thank you. Janet. Every face turned toward me. Mom's smile disappeared. I looked at the 7 executive committee members seated around her. As your new CEO, I said, you're all fired. Silence hit so completely I heard ice settling in someone's glass. Mom laughed once. You are not the CEO of anything connected to this firm. Elena entered behind Janet, followed by outside counsel and 2 independent board members. I placed the vote summary on the table. The equity partners approved the merger of the firm's technology and administrative division with Global Legal Solutions. I said, the final conditions cleared 3 minutes ago. Mom stared at the pages. That vote was conditional. The audit findings satisfied the conditions. Margaret lifted her copy. She's right. Sharon. Mom turned toward the room. You cannot let my daughter hijack this firm over a family grievance. This is not a family grievance, I said. It is a governance failure. I opened the audit summary. The executive committee concealed debt, delayed payments, approved luxury spending during a cash shortage, and used licensed technology beyond the agreement. Ethan pushed back from the table. Sarah, don't do this here. You accepted a promotion here. His face went red. I turned back to the room. No junior associate is losing a job. No assistant is losing pay or insurance. Client funds remain protected. Partners who were not involved will continue working. Then I looked at Mom. The 7 people who approved the concealment are removed from management, effective tonight. Dad stood. We can fix this privately. You had 2 years. Mom's voice dropped. You would destroy your own family for money. The old guilt reached for me. This time, it found nothing. You used family to avoid paying what you owed, I said. You used family to take my work. Tonight, you used family to humiliate me. Her hands began to tremble. What do you want? For the truth to stop, depending on your permission. She looked around the room and finally saw it. No one was coming to rescue her. You didn't lose this firm because I betrayed you, I said. You lost it because you believed I would keep protecting you from the truth. The next morning, I arrived before sunrise. The lobby smelled like floor polish and burnt coffee. No security guards were waiting with boxes. No employees were being marched outside. That was never the point. At 8, I stood in the main conference room with Elena, Margaret, and the independent board. Payroll clears today, I said. Benefits remain active. Client accounts stay untouched. No junior staff member loses a job because senior leadership failed. For the first time in days. People exhaled. Someone near the windows began to cry quietly. An assistant covered her mouth with both hands. I realized then how many people had spent months wondering whether their next paycheck, prescription, or rent payment would simply disappear without warning. Mom arrived 10 minutes late. She wore a dark suit, no jewelry, and the expression she used whenever she expected a room to obey her. Elena slid a document across the table. "You are suspended as managing partner during the review," she said. "You may remain as senior counsel if you cooperate." Mom did not read it. "You expect me to work under my daughter?" "No," I said. "I expect you to work without controlling everyone around you." Her eyes hardened. "Then I resign." She signed before anyone could stop her. Dad waited for me in the hallway afterward. He looked smaller without the polished table and prepared remarks. "I should have told you," he said. "Yes, I thought I was keeping the family together. You were keeping yourself comfortable." He flinched. "I knew your mother delayed the payment. I knew Ethan received credit. I kept thinking I could fix it later." "Later was expensive for me." He looked at the silver watch on my wrist. "I did believe in you. Then you should have acted like it." Dad was removed from the finance committee. He kept his legal position, but only after agreeing to cooperate with the audit and disclose every decision he had helped hide. Ethan's meeting came next. He sat across from me, shoulders tight. "Am I fired?" He looked surprised. "You're staying at your current level," I said. "The partner track is withdrawn. You will correct the public record and credit the team that built the platform. Everyone will know. That is what accountability feels like." His mouth opened, then closed. A week later, the correction appeared in the firm newsletter under my company's name. Ethan signed it himself. The remaining executive committee members were removed from management through formal votes. Some stayed as attorneys. Others chose to leave. None lost personal assets, and no one was denied counsel. My loan entered a structured repayment plan. The first transfer was smaller than what I was owed, but it was real. Global Legal Solutions received proper licensing fees. Staff salaries were paid on time. The firm retained its largest clients. I refused Mom's office. Instead, I worked from the main conference room, where every major decision had to be recorded and reviewed. 3 weeks later, the board asked me to remain CEO. I agreed on one condition: no permanent power without a vote. That afternoon, a message from Mom appeared on my phone. "You saved the firm." I read it twice. There was no apology, no mention of the money, no acknowledgement of what she had done. I placed the phone face down. For the first time in my life, I did not need her next sentence that evening. I sat alone in the conference room afterward. City lights reflected across the glass, but I kept looking at the watch on my wrist. For years, I had worn it as proof that my father believed in me. Maybe he did, but belief without courage had left me standing alone. I took the watch off and placed it in my drawer. I did not throw it away. Healing is not pretending the past never happened. It is deciding the past no longer controls what happens next. I used to think loving my family meant staying quiet, lending more, forgiving faster, and asking for less. I was wrong. Love is not supposed to erase your boundaries. Loyalty is not permission for someone to use your money, your work, or your silence against you. I did not win because my mother lost power. I won because I protected innocent people without abandoning myself. If someone you love has ever made you feel selfish for protecting yourself, you are not alone. Share your story below and subscribe for the next one.